Welcome back to Beyond the Tour. We are up to season 2. Luke, it's 2025. This is episode 31. How are you?
Jake, I'm well. Happy New Year, mate. Hope you've had a good break with the family and whatnot. It's been a good break for me. Got to Bali just before Christmas for 10 days with the fam, and then have really been enjoying the season of cricket, the summer of cricket. Picking up the Test series win there against the Indians has been really, really good watch for me. What about yourself?
Agreed. Exactly the same. I had a good sort of couple of weeks off down here on the peninsula. It's packed, so it's a real sort of holiday vibe, and so been getting into that. Cricket was awesome. It just reminds me how much I love 5-day cricket or 4-day cricket, pretty much. It's just brilliant, just the way that you can sort of the way the game plays out and how it can change, and you invest the time into watching it, and to get the reward we did of the five series test coming down to, well, it was day 3, but could have gone either way, pretty much all the way through, even to probably half of yesterday.
Yeah, that's right. I think, obviously Bumrah not playing the final day was very pivotal. Those 180 odd runs or whatever the Aussies needed seemed a long way away at times there. But I tell you what, Webster was impressive, wasn't he? I thought it was a bit of a big call to not so much to drop Marsh, but obviously the series on the line. Webster's an unproven commodity, and Marsh had sort of taken some match-winning catches, and I guess that's not necessarily what he's in the team to do. But changing a winning team in a decider of the series was a big call, but geez, he was impressive, and it proved to be the right call, that's for sure.
Yeah, agreed. If we had another test series down under and Cam Green came back in the side, you'd probably say there was a spot for him. Given that we're going across to Sri Lanka now, maybe not so much seamer friendly versus a spin friendly. You might not be able to fit the two all rounders into the team, but there's certainly warrant. There's a position there that is going to be putting a bit of pressure on Cam Green.
Yeah, and I saw there's a bit of chat this morning, what happens with Boland, but that might be solved because they're looking at Cummins not going to Sri Lanka now because of the birth of his second child. Wouldn't surprise me if Mitch Stark gets rested as well.
Yeah.
Carried a really big load over the summer. So anyway, we're not a cricket pod, but that was really high point there for the few weeks that have been away.
Yeah, it certainly was. Now, in terms of cricket scores, we saw Hideki go out and score a cricket score over the 4 days at Kapalua. He's finished at 35 under, which is a world record.
Yeah, I'm not sure what to make of 35 under. This is a signature event. It's the first event of the PGA Tour season. It is a great golf course. It's an iconic golf course. And for me to see the winner, get to 35 under, and I think maybe Cam Smith might have held the record prior to that at 32 under. I don't know, just it cheapens it a little bit for me. So something's not quite right in my take on it, although maybe this is just part of the event's identity. I'm not sure. What's your take?
I think it just be good just to see it's an easy fix. Just change the holes, just in terms of
rebase the par, right?
Yeah.
It's not par 73 at all.
Over the course of the 4 days, the average score was 68, so it was nearly 5 under, pretty much, or 4. It was 4. I think it was 4, and maybe it was 69, but it wasn't a par 73. Exactly right there. On the final, or overall, I think one hole finished above, played above par. Everything else was one hole that broke even, and then everything else was under. And I think over the course of the 4 days, there was maybe 8 or 9 holes through the entirety of the 4 rounds that played above par. So to me, obviously there's no wind involved at this year, which there usually is, but maybe it's just time just to start rebasing the par. And I think that just makes the perception is a harder golf course than what it shows.
Yeah, and just blindly running your par score based on length of hole doesn't make a lot of sense, and also not adjusting enough for the fact that the pros hit it so much further than the average Joe. So So maybe that might help. But as I say, a signature event to kick off the year. But where was Rory? Where was Scotty? Wouldn't you expect the big names to be in the first signature event of the year?
Yeah, you'd kind of hope that. The debate really is around the fact that should it be a signature event? Are these guys easing into the season? Like, it was a great event. It was a good sort of watch, I think, prior to it becoming a signature event because
Yep.
it was a perk of winning in the prior year. So I really loved it from that perspective. Not so much now. Hideki's just made $3.6 million, and it's a $20 million event. The 60 odd players playing in the field, and as you say, the two very best players plus a few others, sort of in the top 10, top 20 that didn't turn up. I don't think it's a good way to start a signature series.
Not, that's right. And it's just something that I think the PGA Tour probably needs to have a look at. It's a bit hard to sort of reconcile it with all the talk about what the signature events were meant to be, which was getting the best players in the world together almost, without it being said on a mandatory basis. But we've seen time and time again that it's still pick and choose your adventure for these top players or some of the top players, particularly Rory, on the PGA Tour. So disappointing that it is a signature event and you're not getting your two best players of the tour turning up. Nonetheless, I do enjoy the Hawaiian swing. I like this event and also next week event at Wailai. I think it's just a good sort of fun, relaxed intro into the season.
Yep, I agree. It's good, great time zone for us as well. We get some sort of mid-morning, early afternoon viewing as well. Yeah, and it's great scenery. The course is reasonable. The field's usually pretty decent as well.
Yeah, and the field was decent.
Mm.
It had enough of the big names. It also had, some people that historically, they would not have got into that event. As you said before, it's historically been just for the winners on the prior season, and I guess there was some luster to that. But it makes for a very small field, and I guess they've got to find space in the calendar for these signature events. So the choice has been made to make Kapalua and the Sentry one of those signature events. But it really sort of was Hideki's all the way in the sense that, he went into Sunday leading. And from very early on Sunday, he secured a sort of 3-shot lead and coasted home from there. So not much to write home about in terms of exciting down the stretch golf. But anyway, we're one event under the belt, and Hideki really solidifying himself now in the top 10.
What do you make of the fact that they're playing two tees with 60 players in the field and going off in triples?
Just don't understand it, right? You should easily be able to get through your fields with that many players. So I'm a bit miffed at that.
It's almost like they're trying to, fit it into a smaller broadcast window.
Well, that's an interesting theory, and I haven't really thought too much about that. But as we know, so much of what actually happens from an event perspective and what spectators see is driven very much by broadcast metrics and broadcast objectives. So you might be onto something there.
Yep. Anyone else in the field sort of take your eye?
No, obviously Morikawa was the only one that probably could have challenged Hideki. He largely dealt himself out of contention when, Hideki, I think he eagled on the third hole, and then Morikawa missed out on birdieing the gettable par 5 on the 5th, and that just sort of created the distance there. So I'm actually thinking Morikawa is probably going to have a good season, but nothing else really took my eye except maybe maybe Adam Scott, but we'll talk a bit later about Adam as part of some of our 2025 predictions.
Yep. Yep. Likewise. I think Colin, he had a good year last year without winning, and he's looking like he's heading in that same direction again this year. So that's good to see. No one else, obviously. I think Xander is sort of working his way into the year. He hasn't sort of had a great tournament there, but I think he really cares, to be honest. He's got bigger fish to fry coming up with TGL.
Hasn't he just? That's a nice segue.
That kicks off for us in Australia on Wednesday, 1 p.m. With who is that? Actually, who was it? It was New York, and who was the other? Who were they playing?
I haven't even seen the draw, but just knowing that I've been seeing the propaganda machine in full swing, that's for sure, as the promotions for the TGL really start to hit their straps. So, it's going to be on Foxtel and KO. As you say, sort of kicking off 7th of January US time, but 8th of January in Australia. So we thought what we might do, for those that aren't up to speed on the TGL and what it's all about, we could do we'll do a little here's what you need to know segment. And then maybe we'll have a chat, Jake, about what our particular views are of the TGL and sort of its chances of success.
Yes. Yep. Absolutely. So I do want to run through that.
Yep. So look, TGL owned by is it Tomorrow Sports, TMRW in caps,
Remove
sports.
all the
So yeah, that's right. Which is a collaboration between sports executive Mike McCarley, Tiger Woods, and Rory McIlroy, and it will be operating in partnership with the PGA Tour because, as we know, none of these pros on the PGA Tour are able to do anything outside of the PGA Tour without Jay's blessing. So this has been blessed and sanctioned by His Highness Big J. And so it's largely simulator golf. So it'll be a big, massive screen. I think it's 64 foot by 53 foot for the longer shots. And that'll be complemented by what's been referred to as the green zone for shorter shots, featuring a rotating green that has topography that will sort of change and undulate for each particular hole. And the format will be using 6 teams that are aligned with particular cities in the US, such as New York, Boston, LA. And ESPN will be the broadcast partner. So the plan is to broadcast in primetime US time, and that's designed to work in with the regular PGA Tour schedule. So Tuesday nights is, I guess, convenient in the sense that it's far enough away from the Sunday finish of the preceding tournament, but then it's also before your Wednesday practice round or Pro-Am for the next event that's coming that particular week. So each match is going to consist of 15 holes, and that's split into 2 sessions. You've got your first 9-hole session, which is alternate shot in triples, i.e. 3 players per team playing alternate shot. And then that's followed by 6 holes of singles play where each player will compete individually for 2 holes. And then if there's any ties at the end of those 15 holes, it'll be decided by a nearest the pin comp. Interestingly, for something that's sanctioned and blessed by the PGA Tour, there will actually be a shot clock. So pace of play is important. Getting back to your broadcast window comment there, Jake, obviously there's a select broadcast window and we need the use of a shot clock here in TGL. And there'll also be the opportunity for teams to make use of timeouts. So certainly trying to give that basketball feel to what's going on. So for me, mate, there were some similarities with Liv that did start to stand out a little bit. So obviously the team golf aspect is really front and center here. And the TGL is certainly trying to lean into the entertainment product aspect of things, and looking to draw new eyeballs. And certainly that, for me, is one of the things that Liv has certainly sought to achieve, is to attract new eyeballs to golf. And I think they've been, quite successful in doing that. The other thing that does stand out to me in terms of similarity is the franchise model for the teams. So the TGL has been successful in getting external ownership for some of these teams. For example, Arthur Blank, the owner of the Atlanta Falcons, is an owner of the Atlanta Drive. You've got Fenway Sports Group involved. Now they're the owners of the Boston Red Sox and also the Liverpool Football Club. You might also remember that they're a consortium member in SSG, which has taken a strategic investment in the PGA Tour. And then some other big names, the likes of Serena and Venus Williams, Steph Curry and Michelle Wee are all got a piece of the action. So some definite similarities there with Liv. I did think it was interesting that, some of the voices that have been quite critical of Liv in the past, deriding Liv as an exhibition golf event and a bit of a laughing stock, are now pumping the tyres of the TGL. Good examples, Kyle Porter. So, I like Kyle and I think he does some really good stuff, but he certainly has been critical of Liv in the past. He's now the lead rider for the TGL. So, that's an interesting sort of juxtaposition. And I reckon you can expect NLU to have their finger in the pie at some stage here, particularly if the TGL does start to take off a bit. So I guess they're my initial observations in and around the TGL. What's sort of your take?
It's sort of a wait and see. I think they have done a very good job. That they've executed incredibly well. I think so. Everything they're doing in terms of execution has been spot on. Outside of maybe 12 months ago,
I was going to say, apart from the failed start in 24
yeah,
at a
yeah,
destroyed stadium.
yeah. And do you know that stadium didn't have any insurance on it?
No, bizarre, right?
Yeah. So
Bizarre.
you just kind of feel like, I don't know. Well, actually, it's just conspiracy theories. But given that extra year, they've done a really good job in terms of pretty much everything they're doing is spot on. Like the setup looks pretty impressive. The venue looks great. The teams, they've also sort of settled down on those. They've got everybody, all the parties involved, all their investors. The broadcast team looks pretty solid. Yeah, all the influencers and the media are behind it. So I think they've given themselves every single chance they possibly could of success. Success to me comes down to the format and how it actually plays out on the screen, which I have reservations of. I
Yep.
don't think it's going to be successful, but I can't say for certain that it's not going to be successful. So I'm looking to sit here, wait and see. The shot clock is interesting in some of the promotional videos where they're utilizing the shot clock. I have some reservations around how they're using the shot clock and when it starts, because in theory, the clock should be started as soon as it's your turn to go.
Mm.
It's almost like they're not starting the shot clock in some of those promos until someone gets up to the ball
Yep.
and is essentially ready to start their sort of their pre-shot routine, which to me is not a shot clock.
No.
So
The
it'll be interesting
pre-shot
to
routines where we see a lot of wasted time, right?
Yep, yep. So to me, it's going to be interesting to see in terms of like the strategy and speaking to your team, to see if they're going to actually put under pressure with that shot clock. The other thing is to play a hole, a par three. So you're going to have, let's say 6 shots across the two teams with 40 seconds of shot clock in between each shot. It's 4 or 5 minutes to play a hole.
Mm.
That seems like a long time to me with only that one ball in play at any one time. So I don't know how that translates onto a screen. Like if you're looking to sort of generate sort of vibe and buzz, it feels like it's going to be too slow still.
Yeah. It looks similar to you. I'm a wait and see proposition on this. On the upside, my position on live has been anything that is going to increase the eyeballs and the participation in golf for me is a good thing, and that's why I've
Yep.
been very open to live. If TGL is going to open golf up to new audiences and generate fresh interest in the game of golf, then I'm all for that. As you say, I think they've done a good job. Post the disaster this time last year with the stadium, I think they've done a good job in getting the building blocks together. Some of the team names, when you first hear them, are a bit cringy and whatnot. I think that's the same with Liv. And we saw Liv go on an iteration there where they changed some of them. I still don't think they've got some of them right, but you get desensitized to that over time. And
Yep.
you see that with all sports leagues. Like every sports league has got cringy names and mascots in there, and people just forget about it after time. So I think that they've certainly set it up this time round as best they can, but very much will depend on how it comes across in the broadcast and whether you're able to keep people's attention for long enough. So we've talked previously on this pod about shot makers, similar concept, different cohort of players. You sort of had more celebrity golfers and trick shot artists rather than the actual best golfers in the world. So maybe that makes a difference this time around. But I think they're going to have to build an audience just the same as Liv has had to. And, I'm seeing reports out there that they're paying seat fillers, at least for the first few episodes, which is not really that surprising because people probably not prepared to part with their hard-earned until they realise it's something that they actually want to go and see.
I think also, just reading through that because, apparently it's like when people step out of their seat to, go grab some food or go to the bathroom, they want someone to occupy the seat. And in a 1,500 seat stadium, it makes sense to me. Like you want
Yep.
as much noise and, I've spoken about it 3 or 4 months ago, the World Championships darts. That broadcast to me is what we're competing against here. And
Yep.
and probably 90% of what makes darts exciting is the crowds.
Hmm.
In fact, most sports could play a Sheffield Shield game at the G, and it could be as compelling as a test with India and Australia at the same venue with a full stadium. It's
Full
the crowd
stadium.
that makes it.
Yep. Yeah,
So
agree.
I like the fact that they're actually making sure that the stadium is going to be packed because I think that's a big part of the success.
Yeah, they've got to have the atmosphere and the
Yep.
ambience. Otherwise, it'll feel very hollow and tinny.
Yep. It certainly will. Another thing I was surprised by, I didn't invest a lot of time in working it out, but when they announced the lineups, so each team has 4 players, but only 3 are nominated to play each round, which um, it's a good and bad thing. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out, how they're going to rest the 4th player, whether or not we're going to see a McIlroy or a Tiger sit out a particular week. Hopefully not, because you want to see the very best playing.
Yeah, I suspect that's exactly what will happen, though. They're not allowed to sub players in and out in the middle of holes, are they?
I don't believe so.
Yeah, we'll have to see how that all unfolds. But it is somewhat of a bit of an unknown quantity, and I
Yep.
wonder whether they'll make iterations and adjustments on the fly as well. I mean, they should. We've seen Liv do that and make changes, and that's what a startup needs to do. You need to be able to take on feedback, understand what works, what doesn't,
Yep.
and make changes. So anyway, both of us happy to give it a go. Probably not overly optimistic on its long term chances of success, but I guess you never know. And they've certainly got the best chance of success in terms of top quality golfers and backing of sports owners that actually know how to make a success of sports leagues.
Yep. Disappointingly, the Bay, their player being left out is Minwoo Lee. So you kind of feel like in terms of marketability, and the type of player it is, he'd probably be first picked for an event like this, I would
I think the
think. But
chef would be right up there.
yes, yeah, but I think he's across in WA playing with his sister in one of the Australian PGA events.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, but that's it's interesting. So I'll be watching. Yeah, looking forward to seeing how it plays out. I don't really care. Like if it's successful, it's successful. It's not really something that I'd probably tune into and like look forward to, but
Yeah,
I'd
like
watch it.
well, I think live viewership in Australia is gonna be very limited, right?
Yeah.
Wednesday during the day, most people are at work. Maybe you might catch a replay Wednesday night, on Fox Sports or KO. But anyway, we're not the market. It's the US that's the market. As we know, that's very much the PGA Tour's focus. But, anyway, we'll get to have a bit of fun along the way as the TGL takes off this Wednesday.
Yep. Let's move across to the Australian Master of the Amateurs. There isn't a lot we can talk about there just because there was a big rain delay this morning. The leaders are through 4 holes. So they're still a way off finishing. On the men's side, Ian Gilligan from the US is 2 shots clear of Harry Takis from Australia.
Yeah,
And
he's an
in the
RQ member,
women's,
Harry.
yep,
So, rooting for him to maybe bring the bacon home.
yep.
What can you tell us the Southern Golf Club there?
No, I've not played Southern. It has had a reputation of being maybe not the best up on the sandbelt. If you look at a Google map of it, it's very up and down. There
Mm,
is out of the 18 holes, there's maybe 3 holes that change direction in terms of north south. They sort of go east west west east. So it has a little bit of a reputation of being it's relatively flat, but also relatively straight. So
yep.
I've not really played it. It looks great on TV. Just having a little bit of a watch yesterday and again this morning. It's presenting really nicely.
Yeah, it looked to me a little bit more narrower than some of the other sandbelt courses. I wonder whether they've got a smaller plot of land than some of those other ones there in the sandbelt. But yeah, and maybe not as distinctively sandbelt
Mm.
as a Kingston Heath or a Royal Melbourne, but
It, it's
interesting nonetheless.
it lacks a lot of that sort of heathland. Really, it's a bit more sort of gum trees, a little bit more open.
Correct. Less tea
Yeah,
tree, less sand, visible sand
yeah,
anyway, from what I've seen.
yep, definitely. It's that Cranbourne is another one. And even to a certain extent, Woodlands. They're all a little bit more similar in style than what you used to seeing the others. But yeah, that's going to finish this afternoon. By the looks of things,
Yeah,
a
and
few
we've got
Aussies.
that's right, one of the Aussies, female Aussies there leading the way, Ellis Graysbrook. Um, and then, I think we're leading the women's in the team event, right?
Team event. Yep, we are.
And the Yanks romping at home in the men's.
Killing. I think New Zealand is second, Australia are third. But yes, the US just you're going to win
Like
that no problems at
10
all.
plus shots. I
Yep,
thought it might even be more than that.
yep.
So, interesting event though. The most prestigious amateur tournament in Australia. I was sort of looking at some of the history there, and it's been played sort of since 1997 and has included some pretty high profile names that have played and also some winners as well. But, you know, I was a little surprised to read some of the people that have played. Not so much Jason Day, but certainly Ricky Fowler. Sahith Theegala won it only a few years back. Tommy Fleetwood's played, so certainly can get some big names to it.
Yeah, I've gone across to a few different of the events, particularly they've held it a few times at Royal Melbourne.
Yep.
So it's a great event to watch and you get some really good international players coming out for it. So it's good to see it being televised. I'm not sure if I recall it being televised prior years. I'm sure it probably has, but great to see that it's televised because it's well worthy.
Yep. Agree.
Let's move on to some predictions for 2025. So you've put together a bunch of different questions here. So let's kick off with the first one. Does Scotty dominate again in 25?
Yeah. So, does Scotty dominate again? I kind of split this out into two questions. does he win a major? And what are his season wins in terms of the line? So the line is plus or minus 3.5. And maybe I've hedged my bets a little bit here, but I have said he wins another major. I think he'll pick up the Masters again this year. I just feel like Augusta suits him so well. He's got 2 in the bag already, and a third is certainly not beyond him. So I think he wins another major. But I'm taking the unders on the season wins of 3.5. And even though I do think he'll win a major, I just don't think he's going to back up such a outrageous season that he had last year with another year where he wins 4+ times on tour. So I think he'll get up for the Masters, but it'll be less impactful in terms of winning throughout the remainder of the season.
I'd flip that. I'm going to say that he does win 4 times, but he doesn't win a major. I think the closest he will come will be Oakmont, the US Open. The big caveat now is the hand injury. I know, like, it might be a relatively minor surgery, but anything to do with the hands and golf can cause a lot of troubles. And the fact that he's still playing with his putter, so he's changing the putter around. I've still got question marks over his ability to sustain any sort of excellence with the putter.
Yeah, well, I guess that plays into my unders 3.5. But anyway, you're right about the surgery, wrist, hands, all that sort of stuff. Even just injuries generally. We know Spieth's trouble with his wrist. I think JT might have had trouble as well, and both those guys have been in the wilderness for a while. Spieth particularly. So anyway, that's our prediction in relation to Scotty in 2025.
Yep. This one I think we're going to probably agree on, the best major for the year.
Yeah, I've said I think the best major of the year will be the Open. The Open Championship returns to Royal Portrush, obviously a fantastic course. It's got its own Irish version of Amen Corner called Calamity Corner. No doubt the Irish will turn out in full force and likely to be very raucous. And I think this is the best chance for an Aussie to win a major, particularly Smithy. But it'll also see the return of Mark Leishman and Curtis Luck to major championship golf. Hopefully there'll be more Aussies that qualify as well throughout the course of the season. But I think there could be some epic scenes, maybe some carnage for Rory if he's to lose heartbreakingly again in front of his home crowd. But for me, it'll be the Open at Portrush.
Yeah, I think so too. I loved it in 2019. The venue is incredible. I think it's probably one of the best Open venues that they have. So really looking forward to that. I think that'll be the best. Interesting to see Augusta after the floods from earlier this year, to see how that presents. There were the reports where there's quite a lot of trees sort of fallen down or pulled out. So to see if they've been replaced, it'll be interesting. And Oakmont, 9 years on from DJ winning that was a good event in 2016. So I think that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. So it's a pretty good season for majors.
I agree. Oakmont was the other one that really, took my eye. I just love that course.
Yep.
I can't wait to see the pros play it. I'm sure Bryson's going to be licking his lips. It's got kind of, a Bryson feel to it for me. So yeah, that was kind of a close second for me. And you make a good point around Augusta. I mean, there's never a bad Masters, is there? But there is some distance between those three, and I think the PGA, which is going to be at Quail Hollow, it's kind of a bit of a blah venue, and we've had some really good PGA championships of late. I just feel like this one's not set up for that.
You're skipping Valhalla, obviously. You're not counting that as a PGA championship.
No, I'm skipping that.
Yeah. Oakmont, I think the other thing that's going to be interesting to see how technology is how it's come in 9 years. Like, we know that it's a long way in front now compared to what it was back then. So It will be interesting to see how someone like a Bryson plays it because it could sort of render it almost obsolete. I think that's probably the hardest course in the world almost. But let's see.
Well, you think about Wingfoot and Bryson's win there, and nobody really thought that he could overpower that course, and that the green complexes would make the bomb and gouge approach, sort of what would certainly nullify the bomb and gouge because you wouldn't be able to get enough spin on the ball to be able to make it stop. And I guess he proved them wrong on that. However, he has tried the bomb and gouge approach at Augusta and been unsuccessful.
Yep.
He's matured now in the way that he plays Augusta. And I wonder whether that level of maturity will also sort of come forth in the way that he looks to play Oakmont. It could be a real bomb and gouge year for him because obviously we've got Ryder Cup at Bethpage Black. So we saw Brooksy win at Bethpage Black with a bomb and gouge approach. So anyway, looking forward to seeing how Bryson goes.
Yep. Ryder Cup. Who's winning the Ryder Cup in 2025?
I'm taking the US. I think the home ground advantage is so significant in these events, and the New York crowd is just going to be totally lit at Bethpage. I'm sure they'll be obnoxious and nauseating at times with the light the candle and Bubba Booey and let him eat or whatever, let the big dog eat. But I think the Americans will just have too much depth. There's a real risk here that we see another Whistling Straits type drubbing.
Agreed. I just don't think the Europeans have the firepower required to sort of overcome the home ground advantage.
Yeah, look, hopefully they can muster, a Queensland Maroons state of origin style underdog victory. But it's hard to see on paper, isn't it?
It is. It is. Do we see any sort of interesting first timers come into either side?
Yeah, I guess I'd like to see how this week plays out in the DP World Tour, and we'll sort of talk about the event that's coming up a bit later. But the teams event that we'll see over in Abu Dhabi, there could be some bolters come out of there. And so I don't have any names specifically, but I hope that we do see some left field rookies come in and really shake things up.
Yep. Maybe
What about yourself?
Maybe we're going to see the first captain playing captain.
You think Luke Donald's going to put himself down or Keegan?
Keegan. Like he's currently sitting like sort of 16 or 17 on the points list for it. So I think he's half a chance.
One thing we certainly will see is a whole lot of groveling from the players that are on the bubble.
Yes.
Keegan's never going to have so many friends in all his life as he will for the first 6 months of this year.
He needs to make sure he lines up a couple charity events and then make sure he just gives a little sort of puts JT in his speed dial because he's going to get attendances whenever he needs them.
All of those times where he got snubbed and he was on the outer of the boys' club, he's going to be at the centre. Amazing turn of events.
Yeah. Liv, any more big announcements?
No, I don't. I don't think we're going to see any more big defections from the PGA Tour. But we might see a big announcement if they strike a deal with the DP World Tour, and that would certainly, or maybe not Liv, but the PIF strike a deal with the DP World Tour. Some rumours about that prior to Christmas. I think we'd see that sever the strategic alliance with the PGA Tour, which we know is just a total joke because all it is just providing a pathway for the top players on the DP World Tour to leave. And go to the PGA Tour with nothing coming back in return, really. And if there is a deal struck between the PIF and the DP World Tour, obviously that provides an opportunity for Liv players to earn more OWGR points, greater access to DP World Tour events will also help strengthen the field for majors and sort of move away from these special exemptions that we've seen be created in the last year or so. And it might also give young up-and-coming players more confidence to join Live, and also an opportunity to play on the DP World Tour. So that's sort of a potential big announcement that stands out for me, but I'm not seeing any big-name defections. I feel like we're reasonably locked on that now, and that the focus of Live will be trying to attract up-and-coming talent from around the globe, and this might be a way that they can do that.
There's certainly like the playing field is quite level again now with the amount of money that's available on the PGA Tour. Would take a lot to sort of for any of those guys to jump across the Live. I personally think that we'll see one more top 10 player in the world. Defects, anything. I'm not exactly sure. Maybe it's
Victor?
Xander. Maybe it's Xander. Maybe it's a Victor, someone like that. I would think that anything less of that, and that's a fail for Liv at this point in time.
We have talked also, if a deal was to be done with the DP World Tour, and given the amount of times we have seen Rory appearing on DP World Tour, could he be a domino to fall? And obviously that would be an enormous announcement, an enormous defection. But that type of deal between the PIF and DP World Tour and the creation of, I guess, a network, a global network of events there might just be, the catalyst that's needed. We know Rory's talked about his views of having a global tour and the need to play more outside the US. So you never know.
Yeah, I think that sort of like it seems that a lot of the disgruntlement on the PGA Tour has sort of calmed down. We're not hearing a lot either way. We're not sort of hearing even like a Rory sort of speak out much anymore. So
No.
it kind of feels like we're close to where things are going to remain. I can see an investment coming from the PIF into both the PGA Tour and the DP World Tour, but I don't think it's going to change the landscape too much.
Yep.
May open up a few events here and there, which is why I kind of feel like anything less than a top 10 signing on Liv's behalf is a fail, because they're not at a point now where they're a dominant sort of league,
No.
or they're the very best league going around. So if they don't sign someone, I think I'm going to be worried. I'm going to be quite worried for.
They need another shot of momentum. The momentum is certainly stalled in these upstart leagues. That's one of the hardest things, is to continue to make the momentum, and it's why the incumbents are so hard to beat, because they've got the established presence and the established dominance. If you're not continuing to gain momentum through big signings or new developments, new announcements, does certainly take some sting out of your progress, and that's all there for the new CEO, the incoming CEO, to pick up and have an impact with.
Yeah, it really opens the door, I think, also for defections away from Liv. If you're not showing progress, as you say, and not sort of growing, then I think it makes it a lot easier for a Brooks or another big name at the end of their contract to just jump back across the
to go back.
Yep.
And they're not going to be unwelcome, are they? Like, if Brooks wants to go back, he's going to be allowed to go back.
Yep, he'll serve a suspension over a period of time where he isn't playing anyway, like pretty much all the other PGA Tour.
Or maybe it's a suspended sentence, sanction, whatever. But they're going to say, Brooks, when do you want to start?
Yep. Okay, best Aussie player of the year. I'm going to break it down into PGA Tour player, Live player, and the DP World Tour player, and then the LPGA Tour player.
So for me, PGA Tour best Aussie, Adam Scott. So Scotty made the Tour Championship at Eastlake last year. Some would say luckily so, courtesy of some sponsors exemptions that he got by virtue of being a director or a player director on the policy board. Because he made the Tour Championship, that qualifies him for all the signature events this year. And so I think that gives him a good chance of seeing him play all the majors. His form at Kapalua did strike me. He was making bunches of birdies, and that's something that we do see with Scotty. He struggles, like he's fine to shoot 2 or 3 under par, but 4 rounds of 2 or 3 under par on a usual PGA Tour stop is just not going to get you there. So we need to see him be able to shoot the 8 or 9 under rounds, and he did that over in Kapalua. And I think this is one of the last few remaining years where he realistically has an opportunity to contend at the highest level. So I think he'll want to make it count. And for me, he'll be the standout Aussie on the PGA Tour.
For me, it's Carl Phillips. He has an uncanny ability to come in and win relatively fast, so I think he will do that. He's not playing in Sony. There's a lot of Corn Ferry graduates playing in Sony, so I was a little bit surprised about that, but maybe he's going to play at the Amex in a couple of weeks' time. But I think he will be the standout. He's a rookie on tour, but he's 23 years of age, so he's certainly they all come in prepared. They're all ready. So you've seen Phil Bjornsson, Dunlap. Some of these guys come in and dominate. I think he will come in and do the same thing.
I hope you're right. I'd love to see him make a success of it, and it'll be good to have a young Aussie with plenty of years ahead of him to cheer for. So fingers crossed you're on the money there.
Yep. On Liv, I am going to say that Smith is going to come in and have a really good year. We sort of made comment on his appearance over the Aussie summer, looking a little bit sort of bulkier in a good way. So it looks like he's focusing
In the
a little
gym.
bit more on it looks like he's focusing a little bit more on his fitness. I have been beating the drum around the fact that 2022 was the fittest he's ever looked, and he had a really good season off the back of that as well. Maybe no correlation, but I think there was. So I think if that continues to be the case, he's going to have a huge 2024.
I hope you're right. Because Smithy's certainly my sentimental pick, but I'm going to take Herbie. So I think Lucas is primed for a big year. He's had a good Australian summer. He's got the first Aussie win monkey off the back, and I think he'll take that forward into the live schedule for 2025. And we know that he's one of those guys that can really run hot. So a little bit more consistency and some confidence coming off the back of a successful Aussie summer. I think Herbie's going to be the standout Aussie on live.
Agreed, 100%.
DP World Tour. I have taken David Micheluzzi. So his form at the back end of 2024 was certainly trending after a bit of a sluggish start to the year. Again, he's one of these guys that we know can go really low, just needs to avoid some of the occasional mistakes that cost him. And I liked what I saw across the Aussie golfing summer from him as well. So I think David's going to be our standout on the DP World Tour.
Yep. I pretty much agree. In fact, I'll go for Elvis Smiley though. I think we saw how good his Aussie summer was. He's got all the weapons in his arsenal, so it'll be interesting to see how he goes over in Europe.
Yeah, wouldn't it be great to see these two guys get some wins under the belt and really start to have their names up in headlights frequently on the tour? Excited to see what happens for Elvis. And, there's been much made of him in terms of a huge talent. Now that he's got the PGA champs under the belt and that big professional win, hopefully that's a springboard and a platform for bigger and better things for the remainder of for the 2025 year.
Yep. Now, across to the LPGA Tour, it's a little bit harder to sort of make a choice here because we have some really fantastic Aussie women players in world golf at the moment.
Yeah, I found this one really difficult because, as you say, the depth of Australian female golf and the amount of players you've got to choose from on the LPGA Tour is really, really strong. For me, it was a toss-up between Steph Kyriakou and Hannah Green. Obviously, Hannah was really strong in 2024, but I'm going to go with Steph. I think 2024 was a watershed moment for her. We saw her contending in a major coming down the stretch and really finding her feet on the LPGA. So I think this will give her the confidence to go to the next level. I expect her to win this year on the LPGA and also contend in the majors, at least one, of the majors again this year.
Yeah, and likewise, another sort of youngish talent for me, I would go for Gabby Ruffles. So she's now got a full LPGA Tour season under her belt. She's had four top tens from 25 starts with 20 cuts made. So I think she's primed to take that next step.
Agreed. And I guess just to round us out now on the 2025 predictions, does Rory win a major and break his 10+ year drought?
Yes. Yes, he does. And I think he wins the Masters.
Whoa. And completes the Rory Slam.
Yep.
That's a huge prediction from you, Jake. I'll take the other side of the bet and I'll say no. I feel his best chance is the PGA at Quail Hollow. He's a track specialist there, having won, I think, 4 times previously. The Open at Portrush would also be another one that I expect him to feature in because of the home crowd support. But I think the drought's destined to continue, and we'll see more heartbreak for Rory, and maybe Bryson beats him in a playoff at the Open in front of his home crowd.
Do you think that's it? Just Rory, that's just the way things go.
I think he'd retire. I think that'd be the end of him, wouldn't it?
Gee, like just what a career. Even like someone shared a graph of the major winners, the multiple major winners. It wasn't that. Maybe it was top 10s or something in majors. And like Rory's like second on the list. And everyone around him, you've got Brooks with 5, Spieth with 3, and then you got the others with 2. And Rory's got like so many more top 10s than all of them and just no wins. Like
that's right.
I think just the sheer weights of performance, like he has to win something, and it has to be like it has to be in the next couple of years.
It's like looking up at the roulette wheel and the board's got like 10 reds. Well, the next one's got to be black, doesn't it?
Yes. Yeah. Oh God. Like, here's the argument. Who's a better player? Like if Brooks wins another major and makes it 6, and Rory wins another major, who's the best player of the generation?
Look, I think objectively it should be Rory.
Yeah.
Just by virtue of the fact that he has won all around the globe. He's won different types of events. And I mean, 6 majors is an incredible feat, particularly in this day and age where it is just so hard to win 1 major, let alone 6. But I think on balance, if you look at the breadth of Rory's achievements and the longevity, you'd have to say it'll be Rory.
What about now with 5 majors for Brooksy and 4 for Rory?
I feel the same. I mean, Brooks's achievement is incredible, and I just love the swagger of 5 majors, and he's a big game fisher, a big game hunter. So there's a real different dynamic to his win portfolio or his win profile compared to Rory, but you would sort of, I think, still give it to Rory on balance.
I think this becomes less relevant the further we go on. So it's probably only relevant for this generation because we have the context of witnessing the win. So as we get past this generation and you just start looking at stats, Rory's the clear winner.
Yep.
As of now. But looking at the context of the fact that Brooks had that huge injury and thought his career was over and came back and won another one. And Rory essentially after that hot run where he won all 4 hasn't been able to come back and win a 5th. I think it puts Brooks in front at this stage. But yeah, as I said, like if you start looking at just their records on paper without that additional context, like it's clear that Rory's a better golfer. All right. So that brings us to this week's events. So we've got the Sony Open, as you say, at Wailea Country Club. yeah, looks like a solid event. Again, we're not looking at super serious golf at this stage of the year, but fun event, good time zone for us Aussies.
Yep, I'll definitely be tuning in over the weekend to have a look. Yeah, it's just a good time event, interesting course, definitely worth a watch.
Yep. And on the DP Tour, we have the Team Cup in Abu Dhabi.
Yeah, so this is an interesting format event where continental Europe takes on Great Britain and Ireland. And so plenty of top line golfers will be on show for this one at Abu Dhabi Golf Resort. 6 Ryder Cup players confirmed. You've got Justin Rose as the captain for Great Britain and Ireland, and Frankie Molinari as the captain for continental Europe. And I guess this match play format, team event format, will give Ryder Cup captain Luke Donald a good chance to see who's up for the challenge in terms of Ryder Cup selections. So I'm looking forward to the event. Definitely take a look at it, and probably be a good viewing window for us Aussies as well.
Yeah, definitely. Tyrrell's playing.
That's right.
Yes. Yeah. Tyrrell.
Well,
Who else?
he's a lock for the Ryder Cup team, isn't he?
It looks that way, doesn't it?
Yeah. Him and
Yeah.
Rambo, just
Yep.
might as well put their names in now.
Yep. The Hoygaard twins as well, so that'll be interesting to watch. Yeah, that looks like it is going to be a good event. I'll be tuning in for that one. Brent, I think that's it then, isn't it? Yes, I know. Absolutely. Well, and we'll be back again to recap and preview the following week's events next week.